Thank you for being here. Again, my name is George. I'm here today. I'm here today to talk to you about how we can supercharge your automation governance with our platform, SmartRoby. So we're going to have a quick overview over Novelis and see who we are and what we do. And we're going to talk about three major topics today: real-time monitoring, exceptions handling, and intelligent orchestration with what we call the SmartRoby queues. And at the end, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the chat, and I'll take some time to answer them for you. So let me first tell you about Novelis and what we do. Our mission at Novelis is to revolutionize process efficiency through technology and innovation. We are experts at leveraging artificial intelligence, intelligent automation, and process intelligence so we can supercharge performance and efficiency. And our approach is simple. We do the process analysis, we do the optimization, and then we set up the governance needed so you can always optimize and analyze future processes and even the same processes with our approach. Novelis stats in a snapshot. So we're 150 employees in 7 locations all over the world. We have more than 50 active clients, and we invest heavily in R&D. Specifically, 26% of our revenues are put into research and development. We have almost split parity between men and women, 49% of women joining us and working day in, day out with us at Novelis, and we are certified in cybersecurity. Why? Because all our offerings are based on that, and we deliver our approach and expertise through these different offerings. So first of all, process intelligence, with more than 40 consultants certified in process intelligence technologies in the market as we speak. More than 50 consultants certified in intelligent automation technologies such as RPA and IDP. Artificial intelligence with our R&D lab, with more than 12 researchers and PhDs working on fundamental research in artificial intelligence and NLP and generative AI, and helping advance this technology in the market. So we are also producers of generative AI, not only consumers of Gen AI. And all that is delivered through innovative architectures to make sure we have scalable infrastructure and architecture that could handle the load and the scalability of our ambition. And of course, all that being secure with our expertise in cybersecurity and our offering to help our clients be more secure. So today, the focus is on SmartRoby, our automation governance platform, which won multiple awards, specifically with Blue Prism on EMEA and global levels throughout since its launch in 2021. But what is SmartRoby? So SmartRoby was designed to empower all automation stakeholders to manage and gain visibility into their digital workforce. But when we talk about those stakeholders, who are they exactly? First of all, it's the COE team, the business, and the management. When we talk about the COE team, it's the people responsible for identifying, developing, deploying, and managing automations. And with SmartRoby, we aim to break them free from this routine of scheduling and monitoring of the control rooms and helping them be strategic business partners to the business instead of just suppliers to the business. The second stakeholder we aim to help here is the business. So here we're talking about process owners. We're talking about the colleagues that we're bringing time back to. So we're giving them back time so they can focus on more important things. And with SmartRoby, we aim at helping them gain more insight into their current processes, identify future prospects for automation, and simplify all their intervention in RPA and in automation in general, which mainly is exception handling and managing alerts so they can be proactive in managing their automations. And this is while catering to both technical and non-technical users with SmartRoby's interfaces. And the last stakeholder is definitely the management, sorry. So when we talk about the management, we're talking about the people investing in RPA. And with SmartRoby, we aim at helping them track their investments and access key information so they can know the real impact from automation and help invest more in this activity. So today's areas of focus are also three. The first one is real-time monitoring. And the problems we are aiming to solve with SmartRoby is, but first of all, not all stakeholders have access to KPIs and performance indicators. And the COEs are very limited with the update frequency of those KPIs and or of whatever KPIs they have internally because they are still doing this manually. And we are mostly stuck with traditional KPIs. But now we can do more with SmartRoby because now you can monitor financial, business, and operational KPIs updated in real time. And you can have a transparent overview of the whole performance, aiding the businesses and the management in data-driven decision making. And definitely to stay up to date and proactive, setting up intelligent alerts so you can better monitor your activity in real time. The second area of focus here is exceptions management. And there's no running away from exceptions management when it comes to managing operations. And mainly the problems here are the business only knows what we've designed in the automation. So only the exceptions that we throw in the automation, the business would know about if we designed it to be sent to them. And managing those exceptions can be really tedious if we don't organize and simplify the work for the business. And finally, the business lack the knowledge about their processes and the details of each transaction being processed by their digital coworker. So with SmartRoby, we aim to give the business and the management the ability to view and manage exceptions in real time, and not only them, but also the COE team, because there are two types of exceptions. There's the business exceptions and system exceptions, and each stakeholder can seamlessly connect and handle those exceptions when they occur. And we can allocate exceptions to the most suitable team for resolution. So we can have multiple people working on the same list of exceptions, as we will see in the demo in a couple of minutes. And the third area of focus today is intelligent orchestration with the SR queues or the SmartRoby queues. And the problems we're aiming to solve here are, first of all, the COE spends a lot of time monitoring orchestrators and control rooms to make sure that their process SLAs are being met and their automations are being executed as planned. And they lack certain diagnostics when it comes to missing execution. Like, why did I miss an execution? We really need the root cause of these missed executions so we can streamline our operation once and for all. And one other problem for this specific area of focus, it's that it's challenging to make sure our schedules are efficient and effective when it comes to our planned operation. And with SmartRoby now, you can create SmartRoby queues by assigning processes, robots, and a number of licenses to them. And SmartRoby will then dynamically manage all this execution pipeline based on all the constraints that we're going to define, the schedules that we've created, and of course, robot availability. So let's take a look at SmartRoby. And as soon as we connect to SmartRoby, we land on the dashboard. Let's start by talking about the real-time monitoring capabilities. So as soon as we land on the dashboard, we have predefined sets of KPIs that are pre-built and fetched in real time, calculated in real time, because SmartRoby connects to app servers and orchestrators and synchronizes all this data in real time. So you can see different sets of KPIs, such as financial KPIs, the profitability ratio for all the processes to which I have access, the break-even point, which is AI also included in SmartRoby to predict what would be the break-even point if it was in the future, based on historical data and trends of execution. Or if it was in the past, then there's an algorithm that detects the exact point in time where all my gains were equal to all my costs, all my investment, and I broke even my investment. Other financial KPIs are the automation impact that we can have, either in currency or in time saved in FTEs. We can fetch that and display that in real time on the dashboard. Other sets of KPIs are also present and predefined in the dashboard, such as the robot productivity, where we can see how many hours or man days each robot or digital colleague is executing. We at Novelis like to call our bots with Greek gods names. So we have Athena and Zeus, and we can see the occupancy of both bots, both resources when it comes to the week that we're monitoring within SmartRoby. So I said the week because we can choose the time period that we want to filter out the dashboard with, either all time, a custom date, or today, weeks, months, and this year. We can also filter the dashboard by tags, which is a groupment of processes by theme. And if we're aiming to look at the marketing processes, for example, we can select that and it will transform the dashboard into a marketing processes monitoring board. We can also select single processes, and we can transform the dashboard into monitoring mode, which will refresh the data every 30 seconds, 1, 5, or 10 minutes. Other KPIs are also available on the dashboard, such as process activity, to see which processes are taking up the most execution hours, execution time, and how many items or transactions are being processed for these processes, and evolution of the average handling time of each automation. So this is pre-built and by default in SmartRoby. But if we want to have a more specific report on KPIs, then we can use the analytics module that we've included also in the tool. So in this module, it was built to be a DIY reporting tool. So you can build your own report based on what you would like to get insights on. So you can start by choosing a tag or choosing specific processes. So let's say I want to check all the processes. Then I can choose the KPIs that I'd like to report on. I'm going to choose items with business exceptions and items with system exceptions. And then based on, I would have report types. So I'm going to choose line chart and end that a 4-week monitoring period. And this will create the report in real time based on the actual execution data. So if I know that this is something that I can use again in the future, then I can simply create a preset, call it exceptions system versus business, for example. And then every time I need the report back, I can load it from the preset. And this gives me the report on all the time period that I've chosen. But what if I would like to visualize the trends of these KPIs? Then I can activate cumulative result. And there you go. We have the trends of these KPIs in a cumulative view. And I can export the report, copy it to the clipboard, paste it in my reporting, in my email or in my Word document, and then send it to my management or colleagues. So everything we've seen up until now is the traditional KPIs that most COEs and most RPA managers calculate. But what if we would like to calculate intangible benefits? Now with SmartRoby, we can start doing that by creating custom KPIs to calculate impacts such as CO2 emissions reduction in grams or trees saved. And the way to do that is simple. We create a KPI. Let's say I want to start calculating how many trees am I saving for thanks to automation. So I can name the KPI tree saved. I can say for each item that is completed successfully, I would like to allocate 1 and a unit of measure that can be anything. It can be trees, it can be grams of CO2 reduced, it can be customer satisfaction points, it can be employee engagement points. So anything that is usually intangible and hard to calculate, we can start calculating that and visualizing the real impact depending on our benefits realization model that we've included in our COE, and we can start calculating all those custom KPIs. So once this is done, we can choose the KPI, and then we can have the report being generated with the custom KPI, such as ESG KPIs in this example, trees saved, and we can also see them in a table and get, depending on the time period that we've chosen, what would be the result of those KPIs. So backed by alerts, this approach would be optimal. So this is why we've included alerts management in SmartRoby. So you have 2 different types of alerts. The first one being the default alerts that you can have by default. Those are triggered by traditional activities such as, let's say, a schedule was added or a license is 1 or 2 months away from expiry. Then I would subscribe to this alert. And then every time I have this trigger, I would be alerted. But this is traditional, and this is by default the activities that are within SmartRoby. But what if I needed some more insights and some more custom triggers to my alerts? So we took this one step further and we created the custom alerts, which are alerts that are built by the user in a low code, no code interface, where they can start by setting up the alert name, giving it alert type, and configuring their own triggers. So let's say I want to, this is a problem that most COEs have. We can enter in infinite loops and processes and automations. And let's be honest here. We all go through that. Sometimes we miss a time out or don't plan for an exception correctly, and we have an automation that is running and running and running in an infinite loop and taking up most of our resources when it comes to licenses and infrastructure. So to avoid that, we can now, from within SmartRoby, start by creating an alert, say called loop avoidance, let's say. So we can give it a description. It would be an error. So the alert type can be either an information, a warning, or an error. And then the trigger will be built under the formula when of is and the value. So when the KPI would be process execution duration of a critical process, let's say payroll processing, some would say is a critical process, is greater than 30 minutes. But how would we know if it's 30 minutes or more or less? Well, we can check our orchestrators and control rooms, or we can go to the My Processes page in SmartRoby, look for the HR process that is payroll processing. And in the SLA section, we have that we will cover in a couple of minutes. We have a component called estimated execution duration. And what that does is it takes historical data and AI will predict what would be the execution duration for a specific process based on the time period that I'm using for this analysis. So here I know that it's 35 minutes. Then I can go back to my alert and say, well, if it takes more than 40 minutes, I would like to be alerted. I can subscribe to the alert. And what's missing here is the checking frequency. So I can say, I can tell SmartRoby to start counting from today and do the check every 1 hour, just to be safe that we caught the loop in the right time. And what this will do, this formula will tell SmartRoby to check every hour if we have a process execution duration for the payroll processing automation that is greater than 40 minutes, I'd be alerted either by SMS or email, depending on the service provider that I linked to my instance. And then I can be proactive in managing and handling this type of issues that we wouldn't know elsewise unless we are on the control room surveilling and monitoring the activity. So this is one scenario. Imagine the number of scenarios that we can do with this formula. Let's say I want to be alerted when the number of pending items is greater than 1,000 for another critical process, let's say invoice automation streamlining, and then I want to do the check every 1 day. So what this will do is every 1 day, SmartRoby will check if I have more than 1,000 pending items for this invoice automation process, then I would be alerted. And this will tell me that I need to either scale up my infrastructure because I have a peak of activity, so I need to handle 1,000 pending items, or I need to get more execution capacity or capabilities such as licenses to be able to execute and handle this peak of activity. And alerts can be multiple based on multiple KPIs that we have already available in SmartRoby. So this is the monitoring part. Now let's talk a bit about exceptions. So exceptions is a very critical aspect of managing RPA operations and automations in general. And the challenge, as we said, is that sometimes it's the business only knows what we tell them, and there's no integration between real-time exceptions being thrown and the business having the information firsthand. So what we've developed is a single page in SmartRoby where all the exceptions of all the processes to which I have access would be presented in a list. And then this list would give me the name of the process, would give me all the details of the execution, and would give me the exception reason and type, which are the most basic and important information that I need to understand when it comes to exceptions in my RPA process. So by giving access to the business and to the COE to this page, everyone can connect seamlessly into the platform, into one single platform to visualize all the exceptions. They know the details. They can click on exception to understand what is the information here, what kind of transaction are we talking about, who is it for, which account. They can copy it, they can copy the information, they can search for it or use it in the ERP or the CRM that they're using. So we're facilitating transparency between what the business needs to know and how we are communicating this information to them. And all of this is in real time. But we took it one step further and we were like, what if we needed multiple people to be managing the same list and backlog of exceptions? So what we've done here is we've included a workflow in the exception handling. And users here will be able to take an exception, assign it to them, or assign it to someone else from the team. For example, Paul, who is here, by the way, today. If I know that the last name Renault is a client with his responsibility, so I would assign the exception to him so he can handle it himself. And once he's done, he can mark it as done. And this will allow the whole team to know who is working on which exception instead of me sharing an Excel file with Paul saying, okay, you take the first five, I'll take the last five, and then we'll sync up afterwards. This way, you can always have at any point in time a shared list of exceptions shared between the team and being worked on by multiple users. And again, we took it one step further and we were like, what if the exception was handled and done? So I've taken the exception and I know I figured out what I needed to do on the CRM, on the ERP, on the tool that is automated. So we included also an action from within SmartRoby. So depending on the maturity of each user, they can retry an exception. So if they have the ability to do that and the permission to do that, then they will be able to create retry exceptions, and it will be visible in the pending items page as soon as it is created in the working queue. And the next planned execution would take up this item and execute it, this transaction, and execute it, and we will be sure that it will be executed successfully because we've already handled the exception. So this is the items exception page, and we've included also multiple filters to help us navigate and go through those exceptions. So you can filter by processes, by status, by exception type and reason, by tags, if you want to filter out by groups of processes, and of course, assignee to see who is handling which exception at any point in time. And again, we took it one step further and we included specific analytics for those exceptions in the exceptions page. So this is different from the dashboard and the analytics module, but this is focused on the exceptions, which shows me based on the filters, what are the processes or automations that have the most exceptions. So we know where to have more focus on. The top exception reasons, such as proof of residency missing here. So we can consider more scope for automation. We can consider improvements of these automations thanks to more scope, such as automating the proof of residency, missing exception that is being handled by the business. And we can see a summary of the exception type and the exception trend. And the final part of our focus today would be intelligent orchestration. So within SmartRoby, all the processes that are in my app server can be visible in my processes. And for each process, there is an SLA section where we define constraints of execution. So once we've synced up our processes, our robots, the first thing we need to do is to say which bots can execute this process. Because as you might all know, not all bots can execute all processes. You have to have permissions, you have to have shared folders, you have to have the apps that are being used for automation installed on the virtual machine and for the bot. So for each process, you need to clearly state which bots can execute this process. So here, for this example, for the invoice automation process, we have both Athena and Zeus who can execute the process. Then we have a priority. So this is the absolute priority. When everything else is equal, what is the process that is more important? Then we have allowed execution time and dates. So for this component, we can specify specific dates where we allow the execution of a process and other dates of the days of the week where we cannot allow the execution of the process, such as the invoice automation can be executed only during weekdays. So we would specify that only weekdays can execute this process. And if it was before noon, then the from to would be to 12 because we cannot execute after noon the automation process. There's another component that we've already discussed, the estimated execution duration, which is an AI that predicts the execution duration of a process based on trends in the historical data and the number of allowed parallel executions. So this is to say, for a specific automation, how many parallel sessions am I allowed to start for this specific process? Because sometimes when we have peaks of activities, we might need to start and initiate multiple instances of the same automation to handle the peak of activity. So this is where we specify how many sessions are allowed. And the last one is the missed executions policy, which we will discuss in details in the SRQs module. But here we have two options. So if an execution was missed, should I keep it in the queue? For how long? Or should I just delete it from the queue because it's less critical than others and the next planned execution would suffice for such a process? So I've defined my SLAs, my constraints of execution, and then I can go to the schedules and visualize all the schedules that I have created for this process. So if I need to change these schedules, I can. If I need to create more schedules, I would. The next step would be making sure that we've scheduled correctly and that we've optimized the way we're planning to execute our processes on our virtual machines and bots. So we go to the resource planner, which is another module included in SmartRoby that takes up all the schedules that we've created and lists them in an agenda. This way we can visually see all our operation being planned for the upcoming future. And this is all based on our schedules. So the first filter here we see is the demo orchestrator, so the orchestrator filter. Here we make sure that we have enough licenses to execute all the planned processes, all the planned schedules that we have for our processes. And if we have an issue, then we would get an alert or a warning from SmartRoby. So this is the first So I think I was cut. Can you hear me well? Can someone please confirm that you can hear me, guys?
Yes, it's good. It's good.
Okay, perfect. So I had a glitch in my connection there. Sorry for that. So as I was saying, the first filter would be to make sure that we have sufficient licenses to execute. The second filter, the robot filter, no matter how many licenses we have, if we have more than 2 executions planned on the same virtual machines, unless you have a Windows server that has multiple instances, then there would be a problem. That because we cannot execute more than 2 processes on the same machine. And SmartRoby would alert on that. And for example, the alert that we've seen is that more than one execution was found on Athena at 11 a.m. And these processes are bank statement reconciliation and the payroll processing. So what we can do to streamline this is to click on the schedule and simply, for this example, change the robot. And hopefully we won't have another conflict. There we go. So we streamlined the conflict just by visualizing the error, visualizing the optimization opportunity, and then acting on it directly from the resource planner. And if you go back to Zeus, then you can see that the payroll processing is now handled by Zeus. Again, this is a visual representation and alerts, warnings to make sure that we are able to execute our processes and our schedules the way we planned them to be. And this is a tool also to streamline and optimize the way we're occupying the time within our servers and on our virtual machines. But we can also filter by tags, let's say supply chain, and visualize the supply chain processes, or just choose a simple process and visualize the result for that. So we've set up the SLAs. We made sure that the schedules are optimized and coherent and will be executed as we planned. The last thing to do is to go to robot administration and the SmartRoby queues. So as I said, the SmartRoby queues are entities that are created, made out of a number of licenses, number of processes, and assigned bots that can execute those processes. And every time I have either a manual trigger or a schedule being triggered, then I would have the pipeline of executions in the SmartRoby queue. And based on all the constraints that I've configured and based on the robot availability, SmartRoby will start orchestrating these executions to make sure that we have all the planned executions executed correctly, based also on the missed execution policies and all the SLAs. So let's take an example, maybe execute for the HR process. There we have one executing already. So if we launch the other one, let's stay on Zeus, and let's request a third one on Athena. Going back to the SRQs, we would see the executions here, and we would get the diagnostic if something happened. So this is another important aspect of managing processes with the intelligent orchestration capabilities of SmartRoby, is that the queues will give me the diagnostic. So if something went wrong, I would know what that is. First of all, I can configure an alert, a default alert, to tell me if an execution was deleted manually, for example, or if an execution was missed. And then if I connect to my process executions page, I can see all the details. And the most important detail here is, why have I missed my execution? Is it because I have unavailable robots? Then maybe I could scale up. I should scale up my infrastructure to have more bots and more virtual machines capable of executing this process. And here I have it right there. I know why this process wasn't executed. Other missed reasons would be also, for example, unavailable robots. We saw that, not enough licenses. So if we don't have enough licenses to execute the process, then we need to add more licenses. And we can do that, first of all, if we have sufficient licenses in our orchestrator, we can go and upgrade the number of licenses for the SmartRoby queue, because these are the licenses that can be managed, the number of licenses that can be managed from within SmartRoby. But it always comes back to the number of allowed licenses that I have on my app server. So if I don't have enough, I need to request more from my account executive. But if I do have enough, I can just scale up the number of licenses for this queue and make sure the next execution and the next time we execute our schedules, this will be streamlined. So there you have it, the intelligent orchestration capabilities of SmartRoby. So we've talked about the real-time monitoring capabilities. We've seen also the exception handling and exception management advantages of using SmartRoby, and finally, the intelligent orchestration and SmartRoby queues by giving the capabilities to SmartRoby, to delegating to SmartRoby the process management and execution of our schedules. So if you think SmartRoby can help you scale up and better manage your operation, please don't hesitate to get in touch to dig deeper in the problems that you are facing and see how we can help you face them using SmartRoby. So let me check the chat if we have any questions. Thank you, Leah, for asking. So can we connect multiple app servers to it, and can we host it on AWS? Very good question. So what you should know is that SmartRoby can be deployed in the cloud and on-premise, so we can do both. We can host it on AWS, we can host it on Azure, on OVH, depending on which cloud solution provider you work with. And we can do managed services as well, if this is something that can be interesting to you. We also do robot as a service. If you would like us to manage the whole fleet and operation, we can do that as well. And can we connect multiple app servers to it? We can definitely connect multiple app servers to it. And that's the advantage of using SmartRoby, is that you can connect it not only to multiple app servers from the same solution provider, but you can connect it to multiple solution providers and centralize the management of your automations, whether it was RPA, intelligent automation, IDP, scripts, batches, or cron jobs. Everything can be managed from within SmartRoby in one single platform. So thank you so much for your time. And this webinar was recorded. It will be made available online for you guys to watch again. And again, if we can help you guys optimize your operation, please don't hesitate to get in touch, and we will dig deeper happily and discuss this further. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.